Okay, we are recording. Okay, so let's finally start. Welcome to Math 205. This is Elements of Calculus 1, as taught at School College. Don't plan on doing too much today. We're basically going to talk about what the class is going to be like and some of the rules. Things you should know. So, as you can see, I record my lectures. I started doing that a few semesters ago, maybe 2013, 2014, all the cool kids like it, so I keep doing it. So you can go back, you can watch the lectures if you miss a class or you need to rewatch things, or a lot of students have that complaint. Oh, you go too fast. Well, now you can go and watch them in slow motion. Just change it to half speed. So you can what did he say? You rewatch it, full screen. Everything like that. So, as you can see on the syllabus there, my name is Jhevon Smith. Jhevon is fine. You can call me Jhevon. You don't have to be like, Professor, or Mr. Smith, or Mr. S. No, Jhevon is fine. And yeah, so let's actually just go through this, talk about what the class is going to be like, maybe say a few general words about calculus and all that good stuff, and you can end with a little questionnaire here. So let's jump right into it. So, as you can see here, that's my name, that's my email, very important for you to know my email. I'm going to be asking you to email me pretty soon. And I want you to email me at this email address, not my official email address, this one. Office hours by appointment, and this is my website on the math department, that's my general website. There is a website that's particularly for this class, and that's at the bottom, for this class. That's the website. It's going to be a very important website. Also, the Math 205 website for all Math 205 classes, that's there as well. That's also an important website you're going to be going to all the time. So yeah, I explained to you why I gave you those websites here. How things are going to go is, this is one of those classes for which there's a departmental final, even though this class won't actually have one. So 205 is a very standard class. There's a standard set of problems that we expect you to be able to do at the end of this class. So I think it's good practice to actually practice the finals that were written by the department, and I'll be sending you there when I want you to review for tests and things like that. Yeah, so that's why I have all those websites. For this particular class, I will be posting information at that website at the bottom. So I'll post things there like solutions to tests, solutions to quizzes, any announcements that we might have, the review problems for the tests, things of that sort. And it will refer you to the Math 205 website to look up problems, so that's why you have those websites. So there, you have all these websites that are very useful. The textbook we're using is Stewart and Clegg, Brief Applied Calculus. You don't have to get a textbook. It's kind of optional. So I think it's kind of expensive. So if you don't think you'll need it, there are plenty of places around campus that you can actually get the textbook. You can check it out at the library. I think the science library for sure has one. Probably the NAC library, but I'm not so sure. But I know the science library has one. The tutoring centers around college usually have a copy. I know in the Marshak building, 418S. Talk about that later. They also have a copy. So you can get access to the textbook, but you won't need the textbook. I'll pretty much tell you everything you need to know, and we won't even do homework from it. So the textbook is really kind of supplementary here. So if you actually bought it, you can probably return it. And I know there are quite a few lower freshmen here. So I remember being a wide-eyed freshman myself. Buy all the textbooks and they have to be brand new and all kind of stuff. It's day planner. By the time you end this semester, I'm not buying another textbook ever. You get to relax. It's kind of like those new parents who obsess over their baby, and then by the time they have a second kid, whatever. It's not that big a deal. Right, so yeah, you don't need the textbook for this class, and probably none of your other classes, but whatever. I'm not gonna speak for those professors. Calculators are not allowed in this class. If you're doing the homework, you might use it, but on tests that you're actually writing in this class, you won't be allowed to use a calculator, so remind yourself how to do arithmetic and all that kind of things. The grading chart, pretty typical grading chart here. So those are the grades, those are the GPA, the numerical value. Technically, we don't have a C minus in this class, so if you earn a C minus, I give you a C anyway. So that's that. Some comments about the grades. You need a C to pass this class and move on to any class that needs it as a prerequisite. So if, for example, you're a bio major and you have to do Math 209, which is the follow-up to this class, you need a C or better in this class. If you just need this class and nothing else, a D is fine for passing. But you might want to aim a little higher anyway. But in general, you need a C to pass if you want to do the follow-up course. I know in my last class, several of my students were in the PA program or planning to apply to the PA program, and they told me that what they needed was a statistics class to get in there. Any statistics class, which is pretty broad. Technically, you don't need 209 then, it would seem to me, in which case you probably wouldn't need this class. If you're in the PA program, you could probably get away with doing Math 173, but I actually talked to your advisor about that. So Math 173 is also a statistics class that you don't need this class in order to take. So it actually might save you a semester if you're in that position. So if you're in a professional school and you think you need this class to get to another class that you need for that school, you should probably talk to your advisor. There are probably ways around that. But if you're like a bio major or something like that, then chances are you need 209 after this. If you're an economics major, you won't need 209. I think this class is the last thing you need for an economics undergrad, which is it's crazy but true. So you need a lot of math for economics. What else? Yeah, so that's just some things about the grades. So C is what you need, but I aim for an A as a senior right here. Why not, right? You get an A, why not get an A? That's good. Sounds good to me. Here's the grade breakdown, the overall grade for this class. It's the math department policy that I have to put at least 40% on the final. That's not a choice I make. So if the final is worth 40% of your grade, and the other percentages I split up as you can see here. So we will be doing quizzes. You can expect pretty much a quiz a week. So either a test or a quiz every week. So quizzes account for 20%. Homework, for doing homework, that will be 5% of your grade. Participation is 5%, which is pretty much attendance. I'm going to be taking attendance for every class and just show up and you get 5%. It's chalk gets 5% for being here, right? So you literally have to like be dead and not here to like get 0, right? Just show up and you have 5%, and hopefully you can get a lot more. In-class tests, I will be giving 4 exams over the course of this semester, but I'll drop 1 of them, so 3 of them will count towards your grade. The best test to drop, regardless of the material, would be the last test, right? Which is totally the opposite of what people usually do. People usually just, they slack off. And the first test comes and they bomb it and they're like, oh, now I'm going to study. That's completely the wrong attitude. You want the last test to be the one you drop, so that when it's finals week and everyone's crazy trying to study for all their classes, you can just chill and like, I don't even have to take this exam if I don't want to. You have more time for other stuff. That's kind of the way to do it. So yeah, I'll be dropping 1, but don't let that scare you into complacency. Actually be studying hard all the time.
So if the worst test takes the final, you drop the final?
No, in-class test. Yeah, that's actually good. So you can see here, he brings up an excellent point. But in parentheses here, I said I will give 4 exams and I will count the best 3. And that's in parentheses by the in-class test. So it does not apply to the final. And that was specifically written that way. Which is actually pretty good. For this class, that's one of the skills you're going to need to know to do well, being very specific, right? Does this apply to the final or not to the final, right? Things like that you're going to need to be able to do. may have meant it as a joke, but that's a good point that you just illustrated. To read things very carefully, and math has very specific language. Not a lot of people realize how specific the language is. But the thing is, if you really get the language, it actually becomes pretty easy. Most people just don't get the language. So the final exam is cumulative, so it will cover everything. But the other exams are not. So the other exams just depend on what topics we're doing. And if you want to know what is covered by each exam, if you turn, there's a page here that has a list of topics that we will be going through and homework problems. So it tells you what the exams cover. So it says exam 1 covers topics 1 through 5. So for the first exam, those are the things you need to study. Exam 2 will cover topics 6 through 14. So those are the things you need to study. In general, they're not cumulative for the exams, but the final list is going to be everything. We'll get to that. What else? That's all we have for that. Okay, I think we can go to page 2 now. Yeah, notes for credit, no makeups. So don't get sick, don't have an emergency, don't be absent. Attendance, as I said, attendance is very important. I'm actually giving you, it's actually a part of your grade. And if you're absent for more than 5 times without an excuse, you pretty much get dropped from the class and get a grade that's a WU grade, which is kind of like an F, but it's only worse because it pretty much says you bailed without telling me, not very responsible. It's like an irresponsible F. So it was already irresponsible in the first place. But yeah, so if you have to be absent, I mean have to, like the sky is falling or something, you should email me within 1 day of your absence, let me know what's going on, so I can excuse you for that lateness. So don't be late. Moving on to expectations, work ethic. Don't slack off. It doesn't matter what temptations there are, don't slack off. Start working hard today, and keep working hard. I highly recommend that you try to get ahead of the material. Now that you know the topics, you can stop by a tutoring center or by the library, check out the textbook, sort of just browse the topic even before we cover it in class. That will be a very good use of your time, I think. As well as on quizzes and tests, I normally give bonus problems. So if test is on like topics 1 through 5, I might give a bonus problem on topic 6, right? So if you're reading ahead, and you know ahead of time, you can get some extra points on the test, which helps out a lot of people, especially if you're retaking this class, then you get an extra boost, and we can do that. So yeah, keep reading ahead, reread your notes every night, just to keep things fresh in your mind, and work hard. I think I did put a note to talk about that later. Yes, okay, so I'll get back to the whole working hard idea. Homework. Homework in this class this semester will be online. We're going to do online homework, right? So I give you here the website that you need to go through, and these are the instructions to actually access the course. So you go to that website. The login is going to be the same login for your City College email. So the username is just the first part of that email. I gave you an example here. And the password is your email password. So your username should be all lowercase. To put a funny YouTube video attached to that. Yeah, so the password is the same. And if you change your email password, it will automatically change here, but it doesn't go the other way. So be aware of that. So you can't change your password in this system and change your email password, but if you do it the other way, it will change. And I think you have to update your email password like every 180 days anyway. So just be aware that every time you update your password on your email, this will automatically follow suit. Yeah, but I think it will be a good system to use because you get instant feedback. The problems will have hints, and you'll see the answers pop up about a day after the homework is due. So you can actually go over and get instant feedback on your homework. So I'm going to try that out this semester. I give you some blurbs about the system here. So you can read that and set up your account. I don't think anyone is loaded in the system yet, but I will let you guys know when it's actually up and running. The IT department is actually working on loading the class list into the user database. But as soon as it's up and running, which I expect it will be in a day or two, I'll let you guys know. Another expectation. Remember all the math you've ever done before in your life, basically, right? So if you forgot your algebra, forgot your pre-calc, that is going to be very bad. There's a saying that I failed algebra and calculus, which is true. A lot of students, the problem they have with calculus is actually the algebra, right? Which is, it might be surprising, you might not realize it, but if you're doing bad on these exams, it's probably your algebra that's the problem and not the calculus. The calculus part is actually not so bad. So just a bunch of simple formulas, right? You're doing a long problem. Usually it's like the first line is the calculus, the rest of it is algebra, right? The algebra is what's going to kill you, so you have to be aware of that. So if you're not good with your algebra, your pre-calc is not up to scratch, and you don't remember how to factor the difference of squares, or you don't remember what a quadratic equation looks like, that is going to be very bad. You need to start catching up on that, right? So I know it's not true, but I'm going to kind of have to teach the classes if you're all experts in algebra and everyone's great, because I really don't have the time to teach you algebra and the calculus. We won't have time to do everything. So it's up to you to go back and start looking these things up. And if you go to the math department website, you can go to the algebra course page, like Math 190 course page, and we'll have a review there. You can look at some of the past finals, try to do some of the problems, maybe borrow an algebra textbook to go over some things. So you need to know like how to solve equations, how to factor things. It's going to be important how to divide polynomials, things of that sort. Just a lot of the mechanical things, simplify, how to simplify, what it means to simplify something, which I know give a lot of students trouble in my class. There are times when like you see something like this, plus 2 to 8 times 2x times 7 over x plus 2 to 16, something like that, right? So just a random thing I just did off the top of my head. So you might have to simplify something like this. This one is not particularly difficult to simplify. It's relatively easy. But I've seen students where I tell them to simplify this, and what they try to actually do is actually multiply this guy out. Which is crazy when you think about it, right? Simplifying is not expanding, right? Simplifying, you need to know, when I say simplify something, you should be factoring. You should be doing the opposite of expanding. You need to factor things, factor them out so that you can cancel things. So little things like that can make a really big deal, and that is an algebra problem, right? So I'll see students there like writing. Right, I'm walking around while they're doing the test, and I'm like, they take the whole exam to figure that out. Yeah, so things like that, that's where you're gonna fall down, right? It's not the calculus, right? So you're going to do the calculus and you're going to get to something that looks like this by the time you're in line 2. But then to simplify that to move on to something else, if you start doing something like that, it wasn't fair, Jhevon, there was not enough time for that exam. No, you just were expanding something to the 8th power that you didn't have to, right? So know what it means to simplify. Know what it means. If you had to expand, how would you have done it? Which I'm going to talk about that more as well. So yeah, really go over your math that you had before, your algebra and your pre-calc. Which leads us to the mantra, right? So here's something that you're going to repeat to yourself 10 times a day, 5 times when you wake up, 5 times when you go to bed. Just with your morning meditation, which everyone does, I'm sure. So the first line of the mantra goes, I will not cancel across sums. I will not distribute powers across sums. I will not divide by 0. And I will use brackets appropriately. These are very important. And to show you how serious I am about those, you can read in bold what the offense for one of these mistakes are. Did anyone read that one yet? okay? Guessing I'm moving. It's not a joke, right? You do one of these things, I give you a 0. I stop grading your paper, pretty much, right? And I give you a 0. These are very important. They are very common mistakes. They are mistakes that, quite frankly, should not happen, and students who do this mistake tend to fail anyway. It's usually a waste of time to grade the paper. These are things you need to look out for. These are things you need to know that you cannot do, right? So, for example, let's do some examples so that we know what not to do at all costs. Do not cancel across the sums. The word sums here I'm using in the general sense. It could be at addition or subtraction. We can call it a sum. So, for example, you're doing a problem and you simplify into a certain point, you get something like 3 over 2. And you go, I can cancel the 2's. No, you cannot cancel the 2's. That is illegal. Why can you not cancel the 2? Right, the 2 is supposed to be dividing the 3 as well. You're just saying it's dividing the first guy. How do you know that that's illegal? Because it's a sum. There's a plus sign separating the terms. You cannot cancel if there's a plus sign separating the terms. Right? So you cancel this, and then you write x plus 3. I just gave you a 0 and I stopped reading your paper. Right? That is not x plus 3. Right? And it goes for negative signs as well. So if it's a plus or a minus separating terms, you cannot cancel across the sum. That is illegal. Right? So don't think of doing that. You get to somewhere like this, you leave it as it is. Just don't do anything. Right? You think you need to do something, I don't know, write Jesus saves or something. Whatever you write, I don't care what you write. Just don't do that. Right? No matter what else you write, you will be in a better position than if you write that. Right? That's how important this is. Right? Jesus is the answer. Just write that for everything you'll get. I'll give you points for just being funny. But you do that, I give you 0. So there's literally anything would be better than this. Okay? So canceling across sums, do not do that. Very important. A very elementary mistake that causes so much headache. It's not even funny. So something like that you will not do. So let me just mention something here. You can only cancel across. What can you cancel across?
Multiplication.
Multiplication and division.
Yeah.
So, for example, if instead of 2x plus 3, I had 2x plus 3 over 2, now we can cancel the 2's, right? Why? Because there's a multiplication separating these two things, right? So that would be x plus 3, that would be correct, right? And it's correct because of the multiplication. Now, there's a plus sign. Well, this is one term, right? Because there's in parentheses. That's where your algebra is going to come in, right? So you're going to see this, you're like, I can't cancel because there's a sum. No? You need to remember how algebra works. It's in brackets, you think of it as one term, right? So there are 2 terms in the top, 2 multiplied by this guy, and you can cancel the 2's because there's a multiplication. Right? So that is a valid move. This is invalid, very costly, right? So don't do anything like this. There are times when you might see me do a shortcut. So you might see me do something like 2x plus 6 over 2, and I just write, oh, and I write x plus 3, right? And that is right? Because I didn't actually cancel across the sum, right? What I probably didn't write is that I actually factored the 2 out, then cancel, and then add. So that's kind of how you have to cancel things. If you want to cancel something, there's a plus sign, you have to look at, can I factor out the common term and cancel it, right? That's sort of how we're looking to do it. Incidentally, the problem that I wrote before here, that's what you would have done. You would have realized that the x plus 2 was a common term, you need to factor it out and then cancel. You shouldn't be expanding into the 8th power. Yeah, so that's the first thing you should not do. Do not do this. You either holding a gun to your head, someone threatens to kill your family, doesn't matter, don't do this. What else should you not do? Oh yes, I should have erased all that. do not distribute powers across sums. Now, this one is much more widespread. Equally dangerous. So, example. I say x plus 2 squared. What's that? So 0, that's x squared plus 2 squared, which is x squared plus 4. That is wrong. Right? What is the actual answer? Yeah?
X plus 2 times.
Yeah, this is really what's going on. It's x plus 2 times x plus 2, and the distributive law applies, but what's the answer?
X squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4.
X squared plus 4x plus 4, right? Which, by the way, there's a shortcut for that. You just know that a plus b all squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And if there's a minus sign, the middle sign follows through. Because this thing squared applies to that whole thing, you have to multiply it out. And it should be 3 terms, not 2. Now, what happens why students do this is because they think, oh, I can just take the 2 and put it here. No, you cannot do that. Right? You cannot distribute a power across a sum. Right? You lose information. There's a whole term here that should be there that's not, it's not there. One thing that always gets students as well is to remember that this applies to radicals. Because radicals are really just powers in disguise, right? So if I had something like the radical of x squared plus 4, a lot of students would say, oh, this is just, radical x squared, radical 4, so that's x plus 2. No, it is not x plus 2. It is not x plus 2, right? Because you cannot distribute that radical. Why not? Because what is the radical actually saying? If I want to write it to the power, what am I doing? It means a 1/2 power, right? So if you see a square root, it's actually a power, right? Radicals are powers in disguise, right? So you cannot just take this guy and just square root that and square root that. It does not work, right? There's a whole different kind of expansion that you don't need to know at this point what that expansion is. But you cannot distribute that power, right? So you can't just take a radical across a plus or a minus sign and just apply to each term. That is actually not the case, right? If your answer ends up like this, you can't do anything. You leave that alone, right? Jesus saves, whatever, right? So be careful with radicals and powers in general, right? So be aware that if there's a plus or a minus sign in between, you cannot split them up. If you have, again, radicals can distribute across multiplication. So if I had something like 4x squared, that I could write as the radical of 4 times the radical of x squared because there's a multiplication. That is actually valid. But that is not valid because of the plus or minus. Last blasphemy. This one's not so common, but I have seen it more than a handful of times in a given class. Don't divide by 0. The answer is not 0, the answer is not infinity, the answer is completely meaningless. It does not make sense to divide by 0, right? So if you see something like 1 over 0, does not exist. It's not a number. It does not make any sense to say that. A lot of people might think, oh, the answer is infinity. You divide by 0, you get infinity. Well, that's actually not true. Now, we're going to be talking about limits in this class, where we're going to see things where it looks like this is what we're doing, but it's really not. And when we get to limits, I'll explain more about that, what's happening. But this actually doesn't make any sense to say this is infinity. Because if math is to work, then this would mean what? I could say 1 is 0 times infinity, correct? Yeah. But there's another rule of math that 0 times anything is 0, right? So this 0 I could write as 0 times 2. If I felt like it, that would be valid. Then there's a rule that says multiplication I can do it in any order, right? So I can say this is 2 times 0, law is broken. There's also a rule that's called associativity, which says if I have a product of three things, it doesn't matter which pair I multiply first. So this is that, right? But what was zero times infinity? Oh, by assumption of this thing, that's 1. So this ends up being 2 times 1. What's 2 times 1? That's 2, right? So basically 1 equals 2. And there's nothing special about 2. I could have put any number here, 3, 7, 17.5, pi. But I'll get it all equal to 1. So I essentially destroyed the number system. Math doesn't work. So you might as well jump off a bridge or something. But the bridge would collapse anyway because it's built on math and it doesn't work now. And it's like our whole world is collapsing. Right, so you basically destroy the planet if you do something like that. Divided by 0 does not make sense. It's not infinity, it's not 0. So just don't do it. There's something talking about limits where the denominator can approach 0. We'll talk about that more. But you never actually get there. But do not divide by 0. Does not make any sense. The last thing is to use parentheses appropriately. Use parentheses appropriately. Another cautionary piece of advice. Parentheses is such a weird fancy word to me. Colloquially, where I'm from, we don't say parentheses, we call it brackets, right? But here, brackets means this. There's always that grammar master. Professors, no, brackets, parentheses. Come on. Right? So if I refer to that as brackets, don't freak out, right? Okay. So it's a parenthesis. Right. So all right, use parentheses appropriately. All right. So usually you want to open these following. This is one case following a minus sign. So that's something you should be aware of. So for example, if I say something like subtract x plus 2 from x squared minus 4, then what you would do is you'd write x squared minus 4 minus, now when you put that minus and you want to write the second term, open parenthesis, and you put the second thing, right? Because the thing is that the negative sign has to be distributed, right? So it's not, you're not just subtracting the x, which is if you write x squared minus 4 minus x plus 2, this is saying you're just subtracting the x and not the 2, but I want to subtract everything, right? And I know a lot of students are like, they'd write this, but I know it's really distributed. Yeah, I know what I mean, professor. The thing is, when you're on a test, you're freaking out, and I say, there's 5 minutes left, and you're not going to remember that the parentheses were there. You're going to get down 5 lines down, you're going to look up, and you're not going to see in the parentheses, and you're going to forget that that 2 is actually being subtracted, not added, right? Do not make that mistake. Every time you open, put a negative sign, open parentheses, just be safe. You don't need it if there was one term, but put it anyway, right? So minus x, put the x in brackets, just to be safe, right? It's kind of like a sports ritual, but it's only weird if it doesn't work, right? Looks kind of weird, but it's not totally. Yeah, so there are also times when we're going to do things like, something that's going to haunt you for a while is the difference quotient. And things like it. So I might give you a function, say f of x equals x squared plus 4x plus 5 or whatever. And I might say compute. If I'm sure in algebra class you've seen this expression. F of x plus h minus f of x over h, right? That's called the difference quotient. Right? You'd have seen this in algebra or pre-calc before. You never really knew where it was from. In calculus, you're going to find out where that's from. This is actually a very meaningful expression, as we will discover in, I don't know, 3 weeks or so. But yeah, so you're doing this expression. Let's actually do this one. How do we do that? So we go x squared plus 4x plus 5 plus h, right?
Oh.
No, that is completely wrong.
Well, you have to put that as a
At that point, I just stopped writing that problem.
x plus h squared
It's x plus h squared
plus 4
plus 4,
parentheses plus 5
x plus h in parentheses plus 5 minus.
parentheses.
Right. Now, after you put that minus sign that is here, parentheses, right? Then you write the original guy. Because this negative sign has to be distributed. Right? All over h. Let's continue this just for fun. Keep going. Okay, so if you have that, again, algebra, you need to remember what f of x plus h means. It means you replace all x's with x plus h. You don't add an h to the end. That's a completely different thing. So if we were to continue this, how would we simplify it? Right. So remember, simplify, when you hear simplify, what's the first thing you're going to think of? Factoring out a common term to try to cancel. There is no common term to everything. Right? So now what do we do? Well, what can we do? Start expanding stuff. Hopefully something will cancel when we expand. So here we have this x plus h that we're going to expand, right? So that's just x squared plus h squared, right? No. Do that, I give you a 0. That is not x squared plus h. What is that? 2xh plus h squared. Right? So you expand the first guy.
Plus
This
4
one.
plus 4.
Plus 4x plus 4h plus 5 minus x squared minus 4x minus 5.
Is it? Wait. Oh, right, I see.
Yeah. Now what?
Cancel out.
Yeah, things kill each other, right? This x squared positive kills that guy, the plus 5 kills that guy, the plus 4x kills that 4x, and we're left with 2xh plus h squared plus 4h. And that's it. Now what? H is a common term, so we keep going. We can factor it out. 2x plus h plus 4 over h. That cancels. Right? Now I can cancel because there's a multiplication sign separating things. And now we just have 2x plus 4 plus h is the answer. So this is legitimately like one of the questions I'd ask you. It's definitely coming on the first test, and it will be on the final and test 2 as well, I think. Right, so I'll give you a function. I'll actually compute this expression, which it has meaning. I'll tell you about it later. But you're going to need to be able to go through this process. You're going to need your algebra to expand and contract and refactor and all that stuff. You're going to need to be able to get to here from that point, right? And you're going to need to know how to do it, right? So a lot of mistakes can happen here. Don't distribute the power across the sum. Don't try to factor out something there's no common term. Sometimes you might not know what to do. Just do whatever you can do, right? Square, just multiply it out, see if something happens. Because a lot of times you start expanding things, and things that end up dying and simplifying to a nicer point. All right, so things like this we're going to be doing all the time. There are some other mistakes here. They're not as crazy because they're not algebra mistakes really. So yeah, you won't get a 0 for the entire test for even one of the following 2 mistakes, but you will be down to the level for it anyway. But yeah, those mistakes, do not make them, no matter what. If you're ever tempted to make them, write something else. It doesn't matter what you write. You can draw a picture of what you do. Okay, moving on to the next section of the syllabus, contact. You are to email me by the end of tonight, I guess. Make sure by the time I wake up tomorrow morning I see all your emails. State your name, the course, and the section. I'm teaching several courses, so I need to keep the classes together. So make sure you tell me who you are, what class you're in, and its section, because this is actually not the only 205 class I'm teaching. The section, and so I can put you guys in an email list, because I'll be emailing important information from time to time. If there are any announcements, important things, progress reports, for example. So I'll be doing your report card online where you can see it in real time, so you'll always know how you're doing in the class. And so I'll need your email to send you the link to that system. And yeah, I'll be sending important emails all the time. I don't particularly write email as a hobby, so if I write it, it's important for you to get it. So make sure you email me, and if you don't, I'm going to deduct points, because that's how I roll it. Yes? Email me, by the way, email me at this email address, the one that's on the first page.
Do you use our personal email, or do you have to use?
Use whatever email you check regularly. So if you want to use your college or your personal email, I'm not going to spam you or anything. Use whatever email you will check all the time. It doesn't have to be your city college email. Sometimes the city college email doesn't play nice with other things. So yeah, email me, very important. Do it tonight. Your name, the section, and the class. Moving on to the next page, next section, feedback. I encourage feedback. We're all in this together. Let me know how things are going. If you're understanding the class or you have any suggestions or comments, just make it constructive, right? Don't email me like, your teaching sucks. You know, email me like, your teaching sucks because you should do this, you should do that. I think it'll be better if this happens. Wear a pink shirt or whatever, keep people's attention. Right, so I encourage feedback. If you're very suspicious, you can give me feedback anonymously on my website. There's an anonymous feedback section, so you can do that. Yeah, because I actually want you guys to learn, so let me know what is going on. Help. There is help widely available, right? We are in the information age. You can get help from all sorts of places. So there's free tutoring available on campus. The biggest math tutoring center is Marshak 418S. That's on the 4th floor of the Marshak building. And that's the schedule here. It says it's open on September 5th, but I think that's Labor Day, so September 6th would be when it's open. So that's the schedule. 12 to 5 Mondays through Thursdays, and Fridays 12 to 4. You can see me there a lot of the times. I'll be there pretty much all the time. There are math forums that I give you an example of one here. Of course, YouTube, Khan Academy, Paul's online notes. A very nice site is Wolfram Alpha. Does anyone know about Wolfram Alpha? It's really cool, isn't it? It's a really cool site. You can pretty much type, as long as you just take the effort to learn how to type math. It's a really useful site. You can go there and check your answers. If you want to practice extra doing the even problems and there are no answers, you can go to Wolfram Alpha and it will tell you the answer. So you could have gone to Wolfram Alpha and do this, right? Let's say you're practicing this problem, you're not sure if your answer is correct. You can literally go to Wolfram Alpha. Alpha.com, and you can actually type it. You can type f of x equals, how do you type x squared? There's that caret button, right? And then squared, plus 4x plus 5, comma, find f of x plus h minus f of x. You have to put that in parentheses over h. You can literally type that without the quotes, of course. And Wolfram Alpha will tell you what the final answer is.
Just the final answer or the whole?
So that's plus 4 plus h. What?
Just the final answer or the whole?
It depends. There is a subscription version and then there is a free version. So the free version will tell you the answer. It'll also give you a lot of other information. So it might even graph this thing for you. So the free version will do all sorts of stuff. It'll graph the function, it'll graph the derivative, it'll give you a lot of information. But if you want to go through step by step on how to work this out, I think you have to pay for a subscription. And it's it might be worth it if you have to be doing math for a year or so. It's not that expensive for a year. I don't remember what it was. Maybe $10 or something. And then once you get to the pro version, it will actually show you the steps of how to actually solve the problem. So if you think that's necessary, which that probably isn't, you can do it. I would hope if you type this in Wolfram Alpha and it gives you an answer other than what you've got, I would hope you know how to go through your work and check yourself for where the mistake happened. That would be good practice. So I wouldn't run for full solutions just yet. Try to figure it out what went wrong. But yeah, you can type things in here, and you can type English. So if I ask you, for example, later on we're going to talk about things like derivatives and integrals. So you can use, if I ask you, differentiate this, you can literally go to Wolfram Alpha and say, differentiate f of x equals x squared plus 4x 5. And you'll actually tell her the answer, it would be 2x plus 4. Tell you the answer. And it might graph the derivative, graph the function, gives you the notations. It will give you a lot of information. So it's a very useful site, so you can check your work when you can't ask anyone anything, like talking to computers or something. So yeah, very useful site. Even I use it all the time. So it's a very useful site to know. A lot of other sites there. Another resource, your classmates. In fact, you should get the contact information of at least one other person that you can bounce ideas off of, or if you miss a class, you can catch up. Or if you don't want to watch me in slow motion, you just ask your friend for notes. Study together if that's your thing. And of course, you can ask me all the time. All of these here. You can just send me an email, say you want to meet me during my office hours, or see me in the tutoring center or something like that. I probably scared some of you with that whole zero. I'll give you 0 for your testing, but I'm actually pretty nice. I'll answer your questions if you come and ask me. Accessibility Center. If you have a disability that might affect your performance, or a learning disability, or otherwise, you can actually go to that room. And if you're entitled to extra time or anything like that, they will set it up, and we can move on from there. So, everyone should be given an equal opportunity to do well. So check that out if you have a disability and see if you should have any extra accommodation, because I would need to know ahead of time. Class rules, the usual, silence your cell phones, blah, blah, blah. Academic integrity, don't cheat, basically. Yeah, I also included the academic calendar in the syllabus because there are a lot of important dates that you need to be aware of. Sometimes the date changes, so it might be a Friday, but CCNY decided it's a Tuesday or something like that. So you'll need to know whenever things like that happen, so you'll see that here. The list of topics, I gave you problems from the book. You'll kind of be doing it as extra practice if you need to. The homework is actually online, so those are just suggested problems if you want to do. Course learning outcome is the following page. We're accredited, so I can tell you that, what we expect you to learn. And at the end is a questionnaire that I'd like everyone to fill out. It's anonymous, you have to write your name, but fill it out so I know the kind of students I'm dealing with. You can do that now. Make sure you hand it to me by the end of the class. And I skipped the section about some class advice, so I guess I'll talk about that while you guys are filling this out. Okay, some advice. I'll be giving you advice as we go throughout the semester. Pay attention. Did anyone else come in late? Be sure that if you came in late, you see me after class, I need to make sure I get you on the attendance sheet. Very important. So while you're filling that out, which is anonymous. And I know some of these questions might sound like roll your eyes kind of questions, but really I've had experience where a lot of students messed up with simple things like this. So yeah, what's your major? Are you sure you need this class? Make sure you actually need this class. Every semester it happens where a student comes to me like in the middle of the semester and realizes, I don't actually need to be here. They can't get a refund at that point or anything, right? You just wasted a lot of time. You wasted a whole semester pretty much. Well, my advisor says it should have been in here, but then I checked it out and it's not true. Your advisors are human beings. They could make mistakes sometimes. Be sure to double check things. Make sure you, every time you see an advisor, you double check it in the course bulletin, what's officially written, what the official rules are. Make sure you actually need to be here and actually need this class. As I said, for some of you, if you're in the PA program, you might not need it. I would actually double check as soon as possible, probably tomorrow. So make sure you actually need it. Make sure you know where you're going. What is the highest level of math you have to complete for your major? I should probably add a question there about what is the highest level of math you have completed in the past? Which is sort of, the next question kind of covers that, sort of. So how did you get into this class? Now, I've had some smart-ass students tell me before, oh, I just walked through the door. That's not what I meant. I meant, like, how did you actually register for this class? Did your advisor put you in? Did you pass a prerequisite? How did you actually get here, right? Like, what qualifies you for this class? That's actually important to know, because sometimes the system has glitches. I've had students in my class that they've never done algebra, they never did pre-calc, they failed remedial math, and somehow they get into Math 205. So there's some crack in the system, right? So if that's you, I need to know that you're out there, because I need to warn you that it will not end well for you. So make sure that you actually should be here and that you actually qualify to be here, right? Because mistakes can happen, and I need to know that you're not here by mistake. Also, dates during the semester that you might be absent for religious reasons or otherwise, I need to know that. Rating how good you are with math and different topics. General feelings, concerns, comments you wish to add, all that good stuff. So going back to some class advice. You can continue to fill out questions while this talk. So here I had some advice, which, again, as I said, I'll expand on everything and give you more advice as we go on. But some advice is to believe in yourself. That's the first thing. I know it sounds cheesy, right? But you need to believe in yourself. A lot of students, they're bad at math because they think they're bad at math. I know, it's crazy. It's the nature of it. But you need to believe in yourself. You need to know that you can do this and not let your past define you. And I'll talk more about that, about how powerful just believing in yourself can actually be. Maybe we'll go into that more. Listen to Jhevon is the next piece of advice. I know some of you might have taken this class before, or you're in sort of crazy situations or something like that. And I might give you some piece of advice, and you might say, oh, well, I took this class before, and that's not how we did it. I like this other way. But here's the thing: if you took this class before and you did something a certain way, you know what? If you're here, it didn't work, right? If what you were doing before was actually the right way to do things, you wouldn't be here if you actually took this class before, right? So if I'm giving you advice and you're like, I don't want to do that because last time I didn't do that. Last time, what you did ended you here, right? If you're retaking the class. So take my advice seriously. I don't give advice from a selfish point of view, like I think this is good for me. Like I give advice based on all the students I've taught, all the mistakes I've done, right? Like if you look at my earlier syllabuses, they didn't have a blasphemy section or anything like that. My syllabus used to be like 1 page long. Right now it's many pages because of the mistakes I've learned about teaching the whole time. I can see that this is why students mess up. These are the things you should be looking out for. I'm not at all a random person. I might joke a lot about things, but if I say something, I'm actually pretty serious about it. There's a reason why I ask you to do something. And you need to, listen. Work hard, and, in bold, work smart. So a problem I've often seen with students And it seems really unfair, and in some sense it is unfair. But I noticed that there are students who really work hard and they do all their homework and they're like, I'm always working, I'm always studying, I'm always doing this, but I'm still doing bad on the test, right? Sometimes it's not about just working hard, it's about working smart. You have to realize that you might be different from the other people in your study group, right? So your study group is studying one thing, but for you specifically, you need to be doing something else, right? You need to learn yourself. You need to know how you learn. You need to practice in a certain way, right? You don't have to just grind out 100 problems. I know a lot of people, they think that, well, to be good at math, you just practice tons of problems. That's actually much too general. That's not what it's about, right? For the specific person who knows how to study and they know how their own brain works, they can do 2 problems and get an A on the test, right? If you need to not only work hard, but work smart, manage your time correctly. Know that if you're working 40 hours a week, you go to this class at night, it takes you 2 hours to get home, right? You have to strategize around that. Like your physical body will make you tired, your brain won't work. You need to strategize. Don't just be like, oh, I did all the homework, I did 100 problems, I should be good. No, not necessarily. That might work for some people, but not for others. A lot of the times, just doing a lot of problems isn't the important thing. There's actually a side effect that comes from doing a lot of problems, and that's the important thing. If you figure out what the side effect is, then you can just go straight for that, right? A lot of times it's all about pattern recognition and just knowing the form of something, right? And you might not see it immediately, but after doing 100 problems, you start to realize, oh, here's a pattern, right? But if you train your brain how to find the pattern by looking at one problem, you only need to do one problem, right? So you have to work smart. You have to understand how you learn, what the important things to look for are, and you'll be great, and you can get a lot of headway out of relatively little work. And so I know a lot of you have this idea that some people are just meant for math, you know. There's this kid here, just studied for an hour, and I studied 20 hours a week. This kid does 1 hour a week, and he gets A's, and I'm getting F's. No, he knows what he's doing, right? So there are times when I'm teaching courses that I've never taught before, and I've never taken before, but you know, at CUNY things are really crazy. Sometimes I find out the day before I'm teaching a class that I'm teaching a class. I'm like, I've never taught that class before. But I can flip through a textbook, read it in 10 minutes, and go and teach a class on it. And it's not because I'm smart. I know what the important pieces of information are. I can find the pattern. I can read through a chapter, and I can know that's important to remember, that's important to remember, that's important to remember. This is how they connect, and I run with it, right? Whereas someone might be reading every word of the sentence. It takes them hours to do it, and they're like, I still don't know what's going on. It's about learning how you learning what pieces of information are important, and sort of strategize to make it work for you in the least amount of time as possible. And yeah, so it's not just about working hard, because you can waste time. You can be working hard at something that's really not helping you, just because someone else told you the advice. I heard, you know, my friend told me. This is another thing I never really got. Sometimes I give advice, and students are like, yeah, but my friend told me that this and that. It's in a math class. I'm your math teacher. Why would you trust your friend? He probably failed a class like 3 times. Like, why would you take someone else's advice over mine? Like, even if odds are my advice is the one you're going to want to follow. I know it sounds conceited to say that, but it's the truth. Like, I have years of experience. I've had well over 1,000 students at this point, right? My advice has some weight behind it. And on top of that, I'm the one grading your paper, right? So you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to be the filter. So you kind of need to know what I think about how something should be done. That being said, we are in math class, so there are things where it doesn't matter what I think, right? If I put on a test, you know, what is 1 plus 1? The answer is 2. It doesn't matter how I feel about it, it doesn't matter if I like it or not. A lot of students think that, oh, the professor's against me, mark me wrong. No, you know what? If you're an A student, I cannot prevent you from getting an A, right? Because it's math. The answer is the answer, right? If you know what you're doing, I have to give you an A. I have no choice in the math. right? I know a lot of students put the responsibility on the professor. The responsibility is with you, right? If you study for hours and you get an F on a test, you need to figure out, I'm responsible. Don't blame someone else. Don't, oh, there's too much stuff to be doing. No, go back to yourself and figure out, what did I do that I should change? What did I do wrong? How could I be more efficient? How can I change things? I know a lot of people think, I have talked to students all the time, and they do bad on the first test and they do bad on the second test. And I ask them, okay, so how do you study for the first test? And they tell me, no, you know, I did all the homework, you know, I did the problems on the finals, and then, okay, how did you study for the second test? Well, I did all the homework, did all the problems on the finals. Right, so you did bad on the first test, and you did exactly the same thing on the second, right? Work smart. Understand that one of the definitions of insanity is if you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, you're crazy, right? It's not just about, oh, I have to do all these problems. That's not what it's about. If you did all the problems and you still did bad, there's something you're missing. Maybe you don't need to do all the problems. Maybe you need to do all the problems and something else. Adapt, right? Tweak things. Figure out what's going on, right? Yeah, so, there are times when I'll be giving advice, and I might say things quickly, but I'll usually, while I'm doing a problem, there are times when I might point out, oh, it's important for you to know this, and then I'll keep going, right? When I say things like that, when I stop and mention something, it's kind of something you want to pay attention to, because odds are it means that, oh man, I've seen tons of students make this mistake, I should probably say something about it. So, I'll give advice as it goes on. So, believe in yourself, follow my advice, work hard, be adaptive, work smart, and things should be okay. And if something is not work for you, I followed your advice, Jhevon, and it didn't work. Yeah, just come back to me and we'll talk about it and find out why it didn't work. Because sometimes it's not just about the straightforward advice specifically. It's because of how you have to realize that you are an individual, and things can change from individual to individual, right? So, let's say you're a guy and you want to build some muscle, and you talk to your friend, and you're like, man, you got some really nice muscles. How do you do that? Oh, I just do 20 push-ups a day every day. Okay, then you start doing 20 push-ups a day, every day, and you're like, I still don't look like that, right? I followed your advice. I did exactly what you said. But the actual number of 20 push-ups is not really what matters, right? There's a side effect, right? His body responds to 20 push-ups, right? He just does push-ups until he might feel a certain tingling. So what he really should have told you, oh, do push-ups until you feel a certain kind of tingling, right? But that's not what he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you do 20 push-ups, right? So it's kind of like when people tell you to be good at math, oh, just practice a lot of problems. It's not that simple. There's a side effect that you're after, and you need to figure out what that is, and then everything will fall into place. So work hard, work smart, pay attention. If you get lost, come to me, and we'll kind of figure out what's going on. Any questions before we move on? General questions about the class? Yes.
So we have against calculators. I feel like they're great.
Huh?
We have against calculators, right?
Oh, that's not me. That's actually the math department policy. So they want to be able to do this stuff right at Jhevon. I'm not sure. Any other question? No? We're good?
What did you say about the finals earlier? You said we had departmental finals, or we don't?
We don't. So night classes don't have departmental finals. I'll be writing it.
So will we take them in here?
Yeah, it will be in this room. Oh, which by the way, we actually know what the final is. It's December 20th from 6 to 8:15. So don't be one of those, oh, I booked a vacation. No, you know now, the first day of class, when the final is, right? Don't go, I'm going to Tahiti. No, December 20th is the final. Don't leave before that. Then I have to write a whole other final just for you, so you can go to Tahiti. No, you can plan from now. December 20th is going to be the final. That's the time it will be in this classroom. And to close, I did not come empty-handed. I brought gifts for everyone. We have our first quiz of the semester. Let's get this ball rolling.
All right.
Yes, I am serious.